This is Ben Ingram from the Atlanta Braves Radio Network, and it's time to go riding with the Braves, presented by Chevrolet. Let's see who else is joining us today. This is Riding with the Braves, and joining us is Braves manager Walt Weiss, coming to you in the Silverado HD ZR2. Now, this is the biggest vehicle that we have, and they said, look, Walt lifts the most weight, we got to put him in the Big Daddy. That's what the players said.
Yeah.
This thing is it's a big boy. You can
Nice truck.
really nice truck, good display, good AC, and glad we get to ride around in it today. And glad to be hanging out with you today, man. This is fun.
Yeah, it is. This is a pretty cool deal you guys are doing.
You've been in the organization, obviously, since 2018, but you go from bench coach to managing. Can you take us through that process this past off season and the surprise that came maybe with all that?
Yeah, it was quite the process. You know, Alex is so thorough and plays it close to the vest. So I talked to him a handful of times early in the off season, after Snit said he wasn't coming back, and so then there was a time for about 3 weeks or so where I didn't hear anything. And so I thought maybe, this probably ain't gonna happen. I felt like the conversations with Alex went really well, but yeah, you never know what's gonna happen. So I wasn't sure if I was gonna be unemployed or I was gonna be the manager. You know, it was all or nothing. So, but when I got that call, I was really excited. My family was really excited. I mean, they knew how much once I got involved in that process, how much I wanted to do this, and so that was a great day when Alex called me.
Yeah, and it was a great day for all of us too. I mean, just thrilled for what's coming. Tell me about what identity you'd like for your team to have. What would you like to put? What kind of fingerprints would you like for your team to have?
Yeah, well, on the first day, the theme of my talk was just about our mentality. Baseball season is so long, and it challenges you in a lot of ways. So I think the mentality has to be right every day when you show up. And I talked about how important it is to have an aggressive mindset, to be on the attack. Once you start playing careful in our game, you start to get exposed. So it was more about how we show up every day, performing for the team, taking care of our team, and really just getting after people on both sides of the ball. Whether we're on the mound or whether we're in the box, it's going to be an aggressive mindset. I would like for that to be our identity. When teams pull into Atlanta, they know that it's going to be a tough assignment because we're going to come after them.
Yeah, that's, man. If a team gives you that, a tough 9 innings every night, I mean, you're going to be in a good place. I tell you what's fascinating to me. I look back at your playing career. You played for some great managers, multiple Hall of Fame managers.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you pull from all those guys individually, and how you apply that to what you're doing today?
Yeah, I will say, I started out, my first 6 years were with Tony La Russa, and I learned so much in those 6 years. I was young, impressionable, first time in the big leagues. I was on a really veteran team that was expected to do well, and so I had to grow up fast. And Tony was hard on me. He was, and to this day he's one of my closest friends. But he was tough on me.
Would you say hard on you in a good way?
Yeah, I mean he would, he would single me out even when it wasn't warranted at times. And there was a time where he would undress me sometimes in the middle of the dugout, and I'd be thinking, man, what was that for? And then at one point he called me in later in the season and said, hey, when I yell at you, it's you're not doing anything wrong. I'm just trying to get everyone's attention. I said, well, thanks, Tony.
How convenient.
Yeah. But yeah, so Tony, I learned a lot about how to play the game. That the competitiveness. I think in that way, he and I are a lot alike. Then I went to Florida to play for Rene Lachemann, one of my favorite people in the game. I love Latch. He was on my coaching staff when I managed in Colorado. Just a guy that loves baseball and a really sharp baseball mind. I played for him for a year. Went to Colorado, played for Don Baylor, another guy who just had a tremendous presence about him. When Baylor walked in a room, everyone just watched him, because he just had a physical presence. I always say Baylor was the perfect combination between compassion and toughness. And so a lot of lessons learned. And Baylor was my teammate in Oakland. My rookie year was his last year as a player, and we were teammates. Then of course I come and play for Bobby Cox. And I can't say enough about Bobby. Bobby was the best I was ever around at creating loyalty because of the way he treated players. I mean, and this is as powerful as it gets. It got to the point where when we lost, I know we lost in the World Series in '99, we all felt like we let Bobby down. And that's really powerful when you get to that level of loyalty like Bobby had. It's a game changer. And we felt like when we didn't win, we felt like we let him down because he was so loyal to us. So of course I worked with Snit. I worked for Clint Hurdle in Colorado. So a lot of big names. Learned a lot about patience from Snit. He really weathered the tough storms well. So yeah, there's things I'll take from all those guys, but at the end of the day, it's my voice, it's my message, and my leadership style, so that'll make it different. But yeah, I've been very fortunate.
Was there a point in your playing career, or did this come afterwards, where you thought, I might be cut out for managing one day?
Yeah, I've been asked that before, and I try to think back. I don't know if I ever thought about managing. I saw myself staying in the game in some capacity. I didn't know what that looked like, but I don't think I ever said, man, I'm going to manage one day.
Right.
That was more of an evolution. And shoot, the first time I managed in Colorado is not the way you draw it up. I wasn't even in the game for 4 years. I'd stepped away, and so it was a completely different world from what I'm dealing with now. So, but hey, I learned a lot of lessons that first time around. But no, I think when thinking back on my career, I never had really had my eyes set on managing.
That's interesting, and now you're doing it for the second go round, and I would imagine, like you're talking about, that first go round with the Rockies, like you'd been out of the game. I would imagine you feel significantly more prepared for this go round, knowing what you've learned and the fact that you've been in this organization for the last several years.
Yeah, night and day as far as the circumstances. And I walked into that situation in Colorado completely blind. Like I said, I wasn't even in the game. And took that interview just, as an experience.
Sure.
I had never done it before, and when I got asked to do the interview, I'm like, well, that'll be a good experience. I've never done this before, and next thing you know, I'm the manager. So very different circumstances here. 8 years with the team. The core's been together for a long time. I know the team very well. I would say I'm a lot more comfortable in my own skin now than I was then, because I was trying to figure things out. I remember first day of spring training as a manager, first time manager, I was asking my bench coach, okay, where do I go? He said, wherever you want. So there was a lot of learning on the fly. So very different this time around. Not that it's ever going to be easy. It's nothing's easy in this league, but certainly more comfortable, I would say, in my own skin this time around.
Yeah. Well, I think about all the challenges that come with managing, and you got your hands full, man. I mean, first and foremost, you have the expectation to win. You're managing a group of grown men, all these individuals. I mean, you need to know them, what makes them tick, what works for this guy, what doesn't work for that guy. You have the part of it where you have to deal with idiots like me and the media and all that. It's a lot of juggling, isn't it?
It is, but you know what, Ben? At the end of the day, it's about leadership. It comes down to your leadership style, what type of leader you are. I know we get judged on bullpen moves and that type of thing. Really, I mean, that's if you got a good bullpen and you got guys that that come in and get people out, people think you're really smart, and vice versa on the other end. If you got a bullpen that's struggling, you're a really dumb manager. But we all basically do the same types of things as it relates to a bullpen manager. We all know when to go get the left-hander, right?
Right.
But it's more about the culture you establish, and making everyone in the building feel like they're cared for and they're respected, and I try to connect with these guys the players on a personal level to some degree, just because they got to trust you, and that's when you get the most of them, and that's when you can have the difficult conversations that are really inevitable in this position I'm in. You're going to have most of the conversations you have with guys are difficult, so you got to establish that trust and that relationship, so the relationship isn't fractured after the tough conversations. There's still the respect there and the trust and all that. So it's all about leadership when it gets down to it. We get judged on the other things, but and that's part of it, but I think minor compared to leading a group of men.
Yeah, part of that culture that you mentioned, it's not just you, it's your entire staff. I know you're thrilled for the staff that's been put together. Take me through this staff and what you're thrilled about with not just the guys who have been here, but also your new coaches.
Yeah, we got a great staff, man, and it took a lot of time to put this staff together. A couple of guys with the Mets came available, Hefner and Antoine, and Alex was on top of it, man, because both guys have great reputations, and I think they were the first couple guys hired. But Manzolino got a really good baseball mind. I'm really close with his dad, Doug Manzolino, who worked for us. He was an advisor in player development for several years here, and a close friend of mine. So I got to know Tony through his dad, and Tony's sharp, man. He's gonna be a really good bench coach, and I think he'll manage again someday. Tony Diaz is on the staff. I have a lot of history with Tony Diaz. Of course, bilingual, a tremendous human being, and really well-rounded. He can do anything on a coaching staff. He's a jack of all trades. Tim Hires obviously back. Darnell Coles I've known for a long time. We played together for a minute during our careers. And again, all these guys are tremendous people. And you got to have that, because we spend so much time together. JP Martinez, was a pitching coach in San Francisco. He's our bullpen coach. Dustin Garneau, I managed in Colorado when he was a backup catcher for me. He's a rising star amongst the college, amongst the coaching ranks. Eddie, of course, Eddie's back. Eddie's another guy, jack of all trades. He can do anything on a coaching staff, and he's really helpful for me. Tommy Watkins, our third base coach, very highly regarded, and Alex digs in on these guys, and nobody slips through the cracks. I mean, as far as makeup and that type of thing, we bring good people into the building. So really excited about this coaching staff.
Yeah, thrilled about the staff. Love what you and Alex have been able to put together. I can't wait to see it develop over the course of a season. Step outside the game for a little while, and I want to ask you about a few questions that come up here and there. People have talked about you doing MMA training and such. How much are you still doing any of that? Is that in the past?
Oh, I still, I'm an old guy, but I still do it in the off season. I have my a buddy or two that we've been training for a long time before they called it MMA. But, but anyway, it keeps me active. The martial arts have always been a part of my lifestyle. So started out in the traditional arts, and then it kind of evolved into the MMA stuff. But at this point, we go at a slower pace, but yeah, it's become more of a lifestyle than anything else.
What got you into all that, and how old were you?
I got into the martial arts at a younger age, probably around high school age. And like I said, the traditional arts, and then Taekwondo, and went through the belt system there. And then when the MMA stuff started to get popular, and around the mid '90s, everything evolved, and I did too. And so yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed that training for about 30 years or so. I
Yeah.
guess, like I said, it was before it had a name, but no, it keeps me active.
And a great physical and mental training, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what the martial arts, it's been around for thousands of years,
Right.
for a reason. And yeah, there's a mental and physical aspect to it.
How much of your gym routine is still instituted in what you have to do with your duties as a manager?
Yeah, I try to stay busy in the weight room, and again, trying to stay active. And Father Time's undefeated, but we can put him on his heels a little bit. So I try to get in the weight room, do something every day. And I'll get here early to do that, because there's a lot on your plate as a manager. So if you're going to work out, you got to get it done early. So that's what I try to do, and it's just become part of my day.
Yeah.
It's built into the routine and into the schedule, and I think it's a good outlet to get in there and blow off some steam, whether you're riding a bike or lifting weights or whatever. But yeah, and look, just trying to the physical demands of this job are pretty strenuous. With all the travel, we play virtually every day, different time zones. So, it helps to be in shape mentally and physically.
All right, because I have to ask you this, because it's something Matt Olson mentioned the other day. What's the most you've deadlifted in the last 6 months?
I don't even know how much it is. I put some weight on the bar.
Just go.
And go, but I don't even know how much it is. But yeah, look, I try to push myself in there, even at this stage of my life. I enjoy getting in there and challenging myself.
And that's what I love about you. That doesn't ever stop. I mean, that's life, isn't it?
Yeah, like I said, I think that becomes your lifestyle, and it's tough to stick to it if it doesn't become a lifestyle, because it becomes a chore at that point. And so yeah, it's just become part of the routine and part of the day.
I love that. Well, that's a great thing. I just got honked at, by the way.
He's honking again.
Yeah.
His horn works.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just hoping that we don't have like a policeman pull up next to us, because they're going to think that I kidnapped you in the uniform and everything. The authenticity of this interview is outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't see this every day, driving around in your uniform.
No, I love that. This time of year, how important is this time, and when it comes to spring training, setting a tone that's going to last throughout the entire season?
Yeah, it is important, especially for me. These guys know me, but I've been in a supportive role under SNIT for 8 years. Even though they know me, they've never seen me as a leader. So I think it was important for me to come in and set a tone right away on the first day and communicate clearly what the expectations are, because like I said, I haven't been in this role.
Yeah.
So it's been a very different approach to the day. My last 8 years, it's been all about being a support system for SNIT and the others. So yeah, I think this year is even more important to establish and communicate what's expected of us, and that was, I thought about that all winter. After I got this job, I knew how important it was going to be to set the tone right away, and so that's I feel good about the the message that I sent on day one, and the vibe and the way the guys have responded. It's been really good. So we got the challenge is 7 months of this, right? 8 months of this. So it'll get tested, and we all need reminders along the way, but I have a really good feeling right now.
Yeah, it's a great place to be in. Ultimately, the goal is to win the World Series, and you've been a part of that in a couple of different roles as a player with Oakland in '89, and then of course here in Atlanta in 2021. I want you to dissect the two, and how the two are different, and what you learned from those two experiences of winning a couple of World Series.
Yeah, look, it's really hard, but it's been in the big leagues for, I don't know, between 35 and 40 years at the major league level now. I've been in 6 World Series, 16 different postseasons. Only won 2 World Series in those 35, 40 years. That's how difficult it is.
Yeah.
As a player, I didn't feel that as much, because you're in the midst of it, and you're just competing and you're so hyper focused on that you don't really think about, the degree of difficulty. You're just trying to go out there and compete. And I was in my first 3 years in the league, I was in 3 World Series. So, and won one of those. There's as much a feeling of relief as anything, because this season is so long and so difficult that when you're the last one standing, there is a sense of relief, as well as a sense of accomplishment. And then, fast forward 2021, you would never draw it up the way we want it. Some of this stuff never makes sense. We were under 500 beginning of August.
It was impossible.
And then we lost our best player.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, on paper, that's impossible.
Yeah.
And yet it happened. So, and that's another one of my messages. We just, even when bad things happen, we just don't know what that's going to lead to. It might lead to something good. And you got to be ready for that. I mean, if anyone's being honest on that team, when Ronald went down that day in 2021, it's like, okay, that's probably it.
Yes.
It's probably ain't going to happen. And we weren't playing all that great. But then Alex goes out, and that injury led to Alex going out and making those the trade deadline moves, and all those guys performed really well for us, and they helped carry us all the way to a championship. So you just never know what, good or bad, what something, the chain of events it's gonna set off. So we always have to keep that in mind through the struggles.
From that standpoint, I mean, you might have most of the same roster year in, year out, maybe a few changes here and there, but would you say that no matter if the cast is the same, each season is its own different chapter, its own different volume, where they can go out and have things happen differently than they'd have ever happened before?
That's exactly right. And it reminds me of something Tony La Russa always used to say, and we had some really good teams in those years in Oakland. But his message every year was, it doesn't matter what happened the year before, you won a world championship or you had a tough year, when you get to spring training, you start at zero. Mm-hmm. Every year you start at zero. And it keeps you from, resting on your laurels or, a rough season carrying over into the next one. You're always starting at zero, and it also helps to refocus, your mind and on what's important. And it's a really difficult league. So, and that's why I talk about the mentality so much. I mean, I just feel like the mentality of the athlete is the X factor in competition, regardless of what you're doing. So that'll be an ongoing message, from me with our team, just reminders about how we want to approach the day mentally every day we show up.
That's a great message, and one that I know will be received really well. You ever seen anything crazier at a ballpark than an earthquake?
Yeah, that was
that's pretty wild, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. That was one of the more surreal moments of my life, let alone career.
In the middle of a World Series.
Yeah, getting ready for Game 3 in Candlestick Park. We didn't, we got to remember, it's a different time back then. Information did not travel at, the push of a button. It took time for information to travel. We had no idea there was an earthquake. The players on the field, the lights were flickering. Guys were almost falling down when they were doing their sprints, but no one knew we didn't know it was an earthquake. We didn't know what was going on. And, we found out 15, 20 minutes later that there was an earthquake, and we didn't know how bad it was outside the stadium.
Sure.
It was all kinds of chaos. But, 9 days. 9 days off. We thought the World Series might get canceled at one point. And we were rolling too, man. That's that 89 A's team's the best team I was ever on. And because we were really talented and we were rolling at the right time, we ended up sweeping the Giants in that World Series when it resumed. But yeah, I could tell a lot of great stories about that earthquake.
I bet.
And that day and that night and the trip back to the Oakland Coliseum. It was like it was out of a movie, but end of the world type stuff. But in the end, we got to hoist the trophy And yeah, that was a great team to be a part of.
Well, I tell you what, you spend almost 40 years of your life in a uniform. You're going to see all kinds of stuff, aren't you?
That's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Well, I can't wait for this season. Personally, I'm thrilled for you. I think this is good. I think this is a home run. You in this position. So I'm thrilled for you, thrilled for your family, and thrilled for the Atlanta Braves. And Walt, as always, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm excited for this too, man.
You got it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you.